Welcome to an enlightened hour of interactive talk. This is Guided Spirit Conversations with host Marla Goldberg. In this program, we spotlight guests from all over the globe who have helped others change their lives and will provide you with the tips, tools, and techniques that you need to help you make a difference in your own life. Now, here is Marla Goldberg.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm Marla Goldberg. And before we start the show, I do want to send out prayers and light to everyone in Afghanistan. Please, send healing, comfort, a solution for those who are being brutalized and tortured. So I want to start the show that way. I also want to introduce our guest today. So we've got this amazing spirit person. She's just this glowing light, Eloise Fielke. And Eloise is a psychic development teacher, psychic medium, kinesiologist, and she's developing her shamanic ceremonialist practitioner training with the White Dragon lineage, shamanic energy training. Eloise works with women who are looking for deeper purpose and meaning in their lives, and those who are ready to open up to their innate psychic gifts and intuition. Welcome, Eloise.
Thank you, Marla.
Come down under.
So much for having me.
I'm so happy to have you, and so grateful that you were so gracious enough to get up in the middle of the night to be a part of the show.
That's fine. I'm a night owl anyway.
That's what Bridget said, you said, but I appreciate it. It was just such a nice thing. So before we got on the show, we were talking about both of us had chronic fatigue and how it led to the path we're living on or living in or living through. Let's talk about your journey. So you got chronic fatigue, you said from...
Yeah, so when I was 21, I went to India for the second time. And the first time I ate whatever I wanted and didn't get sick, so I thought I was invincible. So again, I ate whatever I wanted and ended up getting quite a few parasites that weren't found for months. So they kind of tore through my system. I was in and out of hospitals there. So when I finally found them and got rid of them, there was a few in there, they'd kind of torn through my system and I was left with chronic fatigue quite badly when I returned home to Australia. So it was a bit of a journey. It was a couple of years of being in the depths of that fatigue and uncertainty.
Were you in India for those 2 years that you were?
So I was in India for 5 months when that happened, and that happened almost at the start of the trip. So it was quite a few months of not knowing what was going on and being quite unwell and then okay. It was just in and out. And towards the end of that trip, we finally found the 3 parasites in there. That it was quite extreme by that time.
They've had time to grow and fester.
Yes, they had.
So how is this the catalyst for your spiritual growth or for you to go on the path, as I like to refer to it?
Amazing question, because I really strongly believe that if that hadn't have happened, I wouldn't be where I am today. Because I was walking down a very different path to where I am now, where I was just partying my way through life, just working the 9 to 5, at uni studying anthropology, and just a very different life. And so I wasn't searching for meaning and I wasn't looking at my stuff and connecting with my soul.
Yeah.
And I do feel that when I went through chronic fatigue, it was like a dark night of the soul for me. It really took me to the depths of my being, and I had to look at things I hadn't looked at my whole life. And I had to reassess who I was, because it stripped away, and I'm sure you understand this because you've been through this as well. It stripped away so much that I didn't know who I was anymore without the partying, without the job, without the study. And so everything changed when I couldn't do what I was used to doing. And so I got completely redirected, and towards the beginning of my recovery from chronic fatigue, that's when I started meditating and connecting in with oracle cards and guidance books and hypnotherapy and exploring more alternative therapies. That's when I met one of my current teachers now, who we worked with kinesiology at the time. So that's also what inspired me to become a kinesiologist as well. And that actually switched on all of my psychic senses and sensitivity. I didn't know what was happening at the time. I was like, why am I feeling everything? Why am I so overwhelmed when I'm in a busy place or a room of people? I didn't know what was happening. And I met a friend who put me on to one of my teachers, Benjamin Veens, who was my psychic development teacher for 4.5 years. And I realized when I stepped into a psychic development circle, the sensitivity was already switching online from the chronic fatigue. So it really just led me there naturally, so to speak.
Your empathic abilities just heightened to the point where now life was really uncomfortable for you. Would you agree?
Yeah, completely. And it's very interesting where my body was so sensitive, and I feel like that's very much reflected in our energy. So my body was reacting and responsive to everything because of what I'd gone through, that I was in a heightened state, that suddenly the psychic senses were more heightened as well. So I actually had to do a lot of work over the first 2 years of being in psychic development circles to ground my energy, to come back in.
Yeah, which is so important. And it's important to ground, and I'm sure you've learned this for psychic development, to ground, because when you're grounded, you are then able to receive and hold your space, opposed to having, feeling like a weeble. Do you have weebles down there? Do you know
I
what a
don't
weeble
know
is?
what a weeble is, but I know what you mean by that. Because, if you're not grounded in your body and if you're not containing your energy, then you're all over the shop. And I was all over the shop. And I would get pulled up on that all the time by my teacher. And say I was up and down like a yo-yo. So I really had to work to find that center point.
Yeah, but once you did, you were able to truly, to really own your abilities
Yeah, yeah.
and
And
not
it
be
took a bit
afraid of
of
it.
time. Yeah, it took a bit of time, but it was such an empowering journey to realize that my what I saw as a curse or weakness, the sensitivity, was actually such a gift. It just took time to integrate that.
I understand. So how was your first known psychic experience? And I say known because I'm sure, as individuals, humans, we have them. We just don't know we're having them. We don't know what they are
Yeah,
unless they sort of like smack us in the side of the head. Right? So
yeah,
all of a sudden you have your first one and you go, and I'm going to let you finish that sentence.
completely. And it's so hard to pinpoint an exact time because we could go back further. I remember when I was a child being really afraid seeing ghosts as I was falling asleep.
Oh,
And I never realized what it was until I did psychic development and was like, oh, I was just perceiving the different dimensions. So there's that. But then I do recall, for me, the oracle cards was such a great way to connect before stepping into psychic development. And I just recall, no matter how much I shuffled, every single day, 5 or 6 days in a row, I got the exact same card. And I was like, you cannot make this up. This is a message for me right now. What are the odds out of that? And so I was like, okay, something's going on here.
right.
And then I do recall, for me, my first intensely psychic experience was actually at a cacao ceremony with one of my teachers, Sharon, from the White Dragon lineage, from shamanic energy training. And it was incredible. I'd never had such surreal and visceral visions and experiences and connection to spirit. So that was really, really powerful.
Nice. That's really nice. I love cacao.
Yeah.
It's so yummy.
Yeah.
The ceremony is beautiful as well, but of course,
Yeah.
I'm talking from my stomach, not from
Yeah.
my psychic senses, because it's time for
Yeah.
lunch. I don't know. So now, and you've sort of devoted your life now to teaching people how to open up and develop their psychic abilities.
Yeah. So it kind of just happened. I was sitting in psychic development circles with my teacher, Benjamin Veens, for 4.5 years, and some of those weeks it would be 3 times a week. So it was a lot. I just loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. It was my favorite thing ever. And so eventually the time came when he said, "Do you want to teach?" And so he helped train me up to teach, and has been such an incredible support for me, because I teach at his school now as well as doing stuff online. And so it just happened, and I love it. I have such a passion and love for teaching, and for when I see other people stepping into their psychic gifts. There's no greater feeling.
Well, you must feel so accomplished. Like, look at by using this formula. I'm going to use the word formula. I don't know, but there's got to be a formula, because it's step 1, step 2, step 3 to get people to understand how to ground, how to step, how to connect, etc. That all of a sudden you see somebody getting it right. Like, by George, they got it, and it's like, wow. So that's nice. But you focus on women. Why women opposed to the population in general?
I find that I just attract more women. I've had a couple of men come and go from my in-person psychic development circle, but I just tend to call in women, and I feel like I understand that energy more at the moment. So it's not limited to just women, but that's what I kind of specialize in, because that's what I notice myself attracting in more and more, especially awakening women that are on a similar path or going through a similar experience to what I went through, whether chronic fatigue or something else. It's usually women that are stepping into their spiritual path and going, oh, there's more to life than what I've known.
And it's so true. It's so true. Men are starting to get on this bandwagon. It's just they're getting on a little slower than the women have.
Completely.
But think about the divine feminine, right? And how women are such nurturers. And as being a nurturer, in my opinion, of course, in the world of Marla, that, women really want to explore their emotions, their feelings, what makes everything tick. And guess what? If you get this psychic download, also learn how to connect psychically, that's like frosting on your cake, in my opinion.
Completely. And they're so deeply linked. I'm really passionate about this as well. A big part of any sort of psychic development course will be the emotional work and the self-development. And so the whole first year usually is looking at your own stuff and having different lessons come up and themes come up as you work your way through the energy centers, through the chakras. What is unreleased or stored there will start coming up naturally anyway, as well as if you're receiving readings every week that are very current, you can't escape it, right? I call them self-work readings.
Oh, I love that. And let's face it, everything sits in the chakras from this life and past lives.
Yeah.
And even if you clean it up in this life, you might still have to do some work because of, look at, if we're going on this path, and anybody who wants to step into the path, this isn't your first go around. You're not a newbie in this, in the spiritual realm. And so, it's just, getting those layers of imprints, programs, blocks, whatever you want to call it, out of your energetic field, so you can be freed up to receive.
Completely. And the more we've worked through those imprints, programs, projections, the cleaner a channel we can be, if that makes sense. So we're not reading through our lens of projection anymore, and we're not projecting our own stuff onto the person we're reading for. We're reading from a really balanced place within.
Exactly. When I started my first school, my teacher had this philosophy: you have to clean. I paraphrase. This is the way I say it. You have to clean your own closets before you can help anybody else clean out theirs. Yeah. So you do, like you're talking about, a lot of self-work, exploration, healing, and then you have more space and empathy to be able to help somebody else, because as you're healing, you're finding your own patterns, and so you can help somebody who might have a similar pattern because now you've experienced it. So how do you feel about the people who step into their spiritual path they're psychic, they have the ability and they just share things with people, but they haven't done their own work.
That's where I make a really strong boundary with all of my students and everyone that steps into class, where I say, if any information ever comes through for anyone, whether from spirit or your psychic senses, always check and ask if it's okay, because you don't want to be interfering with someone's life by going, I've got all this information and these messages for you, without it being solicited. So there's a really strong boundary there, as well as don't tune into anyone else's energy field unless they've given you permission. The messages might come through and that's okay. You're not forcing it. But yeah, definitely energetic boundaries with that. As well as when people are having that come through and they might not have worked through their stuff, it's a process because you've got to start somewhere. Does that make sense? So with my students,
It does.
I do have a self-reflection part towards the end of their practice readings, so they can reflect on where they felt connected, where they felt influenced by their own stuff. And so it just takes time to distinguish. So the patience is key, I do find, with that as well.
I agree. It is. It's just, again, it's trying to get people to get their own, closets cleaned a little bit, thinned out a little bit so that there's more room for the messages, the guidance.
Yeah, completely.
To come
and it's
through.
an ongoing process, right? The different layers of our healing and our journey.
It's so true. I mean, it is a process. And here's the thing, our life, it never ends. These bodies may shed away, grow old, go wrinkly. Then you kick it, when you transition, and then, but you're still going. You're still learning and moving to the next realm.
Yeah, our soul will never stop learning and growing.
It will not. And at this point, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back, Eloise. We'll be right back with you and talk more about psychic development and how you too can learn how to become a psychic.
Okay, great job. We're all clear. Back in a couple minutes.
Thanks, Matt. All right. So that was good.
Yeah, it's so lovely chatting. It just feels really natural.
Well, it is. I mean, we're both on the same page. Completely. I know exactly what you're and so we just want to try to help and bring it out to everybody else so they can also understand the way we do.
Completely.
So in the next segment, I'd like to talk more about your class and the steps that, or the different kind of, I don't know if you call them mods, chapters, that somebody might experience with your development course.
Yeah, it's more so just different modules, and it's all done live, so none of it's recorded or anything like that. But yeah, it's segmented into the different clairs. So really focus on them.
So then so how would people in the United States go live? If you're going live?
I am actually going to release one that is in the morning, because at the moment I've got one that's nearly full, that's at the Thursday night, our time, which is kind of really, I think it's the middle of the night for you guys.
You mean like the reverse of what we're doing now?
Yeah, literally the reverse. So I think I'm going to release one that's in the morning, on a Thursday morning, which is then anyone in the States, that will usually be evening, like 8 till 10 p.m. on the Wednesday evening. So the day before. So it's the only time that kind of corresponds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
So is it every week for 6 months?
Yeah. It's every week. But one of those weeks each month will be the one-on-one private mentoring sessions. And they're bi-monthly. So you'll have kind of one of those days off every second month, if that makes sense.
It does. What about when people have to travel?
When people have to travel
often. So for example, my life
moving around.
Yeah. I mean, I jump from here to there. I'm sorry?
They're actually all recorded as well. So
okay.
you don't have to make every class. It's recorded, and then if you want that extra reading practice, I'll pair you with someone else that couldn't make it that week so you can get together and practice the readings physically as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that because I think it's important to let people know that it's live, but you can get a recorded segment.
Definitely. Yeah, you can still attend even if you can't make them all.
Perfect.
All right,
Okay.
Marla, we are coming back.
Perfect. Thank you.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you are invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, I'm here with Eloise Fielke. And Eloise is a psychic development teacher, psychic medium, kinesiologist. And she's also developing shamanic ceremonial or becoming a ceremonialist practitioner training with the White Dragon lineage shamanic energy training. Well, welcome back, Eloise.
Thank you so much, Marla. Great to be here.
And I've got to tell everybody once again, because if you're just tuning in, just so you know, Eloise was so gracious. It's like, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, your time?
It is 2:30 a.m., but I'm a night owl.
So she was gracious enough to get up and be a part of the show so that it could be live. So if you want to call in and talk to Eloise, again, the number is 888-346-9141. You can call in, ask Eloise a question about her class, about her psychic medium sessions that she does, or kinesiology. So it's an open book session. So as more or less what we're going to say. So when we were on break, Eloise, we were talking about, you have an online class. It's a 6-month psychic development class. Let's talk about that.
Yes, I do. So I'm very excited about it. It is called Psychic Foundations, and essentially it's covering all of the basics of psychic readings, of psychic development. It goes for 6 months, and it's online because I had a lot of people asking interstate and overseas to do this type of development. So I've kind of transferred it to be readily available for online learning.
Nice.
So, and we've kind of had to adapt here in Melbourne anyway with all the lockdowns. The in-person classes would run online instead. So I got used to that style of learning, and I actually love it. And so it's a 6-month journey that runs weekly, but the calls are recorded. So if you can't make it or you're in a different time zone, all calls are recorded. So you can rewatch them, and then I can place you with someone else that couldn't make it that week to practice the readings with. Or you can go and practice them with your friends and family, etc. as well, because you'll have all the techniques. And so with the 6-month journey, the first month's very much about grounding, psychic protection tools, energy management tools and techniques, so that as you're opening up, you've got a toolkit of different things to draw on that will help keep your energy protected and grounded. So I find that to be really important to have in place before opening everything up. And so there's also a template for reading. So I so often get asked by people every second day, what if I can't do it? What if I can't read? I'm scared I won't be able to do it. And I honestly believe that we are all born psychic. We are all inherently psychic. We just might be open to differing degrees. And sometimes we just don't have the support we need to open it up. That's why I find training to be so useful and helpful. It's been amazing for me. So there's a specific reading template that I teach in the course. So it's very easy to work with the information and put it together in a really understandable way for the person you're reading for. So I speak of it as bringing some masculinity and some masculine structure to such a feminine aspect of our intuition. So you're not sitting there going, where do I start? What do I do? It just brings in the structure. And so each month after that, The second month will be focusing the whole month on clairsentience. And then the third month, the whole month on clairaudience. So really honing in the different psychic senses. The fourth month on clairvoyance. All the symbology there and how to put it together. The fifth month on mediumship and the very, very basics of mediumship. Because it's such a big journey as well, the mediumship journey.
It is.
And then the 6 months is just putting it all together and all my other little tips and tricks that I work with to read. So it's also incorporating some ritual to really integrate the information and opening and closing ceremonies, because that's my other little side passion, which you mentioned at the start. I'm developing as a ceremonialist with the White Dragon lineage. So I love bringing the plants and cacao and different subtle plants into ceremony and into the course.
Which is lovely. There's a healer in Bali, and he grows his own herbs. He has trees with, and bushes, and he just, before you start a session, he makes a tea with his freshly pulled leaves. And so instead of a cacao, it is an herbal ceremony, so to speak, to just get you to open up and to help cleanse, in the process. So it sounds sort of similar in terms of, let's open, let's cleanse, let's get ready. And so people know that there's steps to take to their precautions and preparations.
Completely. And I love the plants. That's my little side passion project. I love working with the plants and their wisdom, their energy. So it's amazing to be able to merge these two worlds that I've been training in together in a beautiful way.
It is. And, doing anything shamanic is all about blending everything and utilizing all the aspects, all the elements that we encounter.
Yeah, completely.
So it's just it sounds like a beautiful process.
Yeah.
To getting there. So let's talk about why training with intuition is important when you're doing energy work.
Yeah.
How that works hand in hand.
Completely. And it actually, I feel like it really connects in with what we were talking before about, Marla, as well, with working through your lens of projection, right? And so I find also training with a teacher allows you to be held accountable to your staff, to where you're at on your journey, being held accountable to when you're out of line or where you're at. And I find it just provides such a beautiful reflection and support. And some people might not need it, As I said before, we're all open to differing degrees. I believe we're all psychic, but some people might have never closed that down, because I believe we slowly close down our lens of perception as we grow. Because I strongly believe that all babies, young children and animals just read energy. They just perceive energy. So usually with societal conditioning, etc., we close down our lenses of perception, our psychic senses.
Yes.
And so some people might not have at all. And it's not as common, but that can be there too. But I do find training just brings in that structure, even if you're naturally open or if you've never received any psychic information before. Training will bring in the structure to the reading, to know where to take it, to bring in the symbology and the almost the psychic vocabulary, so to speak. And so it just helps with really grounding in the information and how to relay that as well. But I find it's really great as well for people that are either just opening up and don't know what to do, that kind of need that support to protect their energy and go, okay, how do I interpret these frequencies, the information coming through? Or it's really great for people that don't feel like they've opened up their psychic senses yet, because it just provides that nudge of encouragement and helps to take you out of it and just focus on the information and go, oh, I can do this. And that's, if you walk away after that 6 months going, oh, I can do this. I do believe I'm psychic and I'm connected to my clairs and my psychic senses, then I've done my job.
And I have to tell you, what you're talking about is what I went through when I call myself a late bloomer, even though like you, I had something in my teen years where I had an experience, but I just chalked it up to timing. Like I didn't think of it as psychic or intuitive. I just thought, oh, I just felt it was going down a bad place, but didn't attribute it to being guided spiritually. And then when I had my first, what I call my known psychic experience, which is what I had asked you about, I was like you, it's like one of your students who said, I don't know if I can do it, whatever. And I just prayed and prayed and prayed to give me something with my partner. So I didn't disappoint her. And things came up. And it was like, oh yeah, I can do this. This is so cool. So yeah, I am agreeing with you that everybody should be open to trying it, because you'll get such guidance for your life. Forget helping, giving readings, you're not Teresa Caputo, giving, who she is? On Long Island psychic or Long Island medium, where you go to people and start telling them stuff. But you can use it for your own, trust for your own guidance to help you make decisions and through your life.
I totally agree with that as well. It's doing this type of development. It's not just about becoming a reader and stepping into being a psychic reader. If that's what you love and you're passionate about, go for it. And I do want to say with that as well, people are sometimes under the impression that, it's a month or two and then you know everything and then you're ready. It takes time. I like debunking myths. It was at least a year until my teacher said, okay, go and read at expos and get some more practice and, do your apprenticeship there, cut your teeth. So this stuff takes time to integrate, right? And with that, it's very much about, having the space to develop that for yourself so you can help yourself with your own life. Because I've sat in psychic development circles with architects, psychologists, artists, people from all walks of life, and some of them aren't there to be a psychic reader. It might enhance the work that they do, so bring that intuitive element, but they're more there for themselves and their own personal development and their own connection and relationship with their intuition, because everything starts within, right? Everything starts with us. So I do love when it's done with that perspective of it being a very self and sacred journey. And if it eventuates into reading and teaching, great. It just depends.
Yeah, and not everybody needs to be a reader to learn this. It is truly helpful. And I always use the very simple example of you're at a crossroads, you need to go right or left and you forget which way you want to go. Now we have GPS, but back in the day when there was no GPS, you'd stop and go, oh my God, where am I going? What direction? And sometimes you hear a voice telling you to go which way. And if you went against it, you probably had to turn around and go back. And that was some guidance that was being given to you.
Yeah, and that's the best way to test your intuition, isn't it? Throw yourself in the deep end.
It is. It can be scary because you have to trust. As a friend of mine says, it's trust, surrender, and then allow. Yeah. The steps to receiving information. Yeah.
The trust is a big one as well. It takes time for some people. It's a big journey because it's about trusting yourself, trusting your gut, trusting spirit, trusting others, trusting the universe. So it's a huge one, but so empowering.
Do you have a story you might be able to share with the audience about a student you might have had who was really, a hard case, but then all of a sudden cracked open and now is in this amazing place?
Yeah, it's so funny because I do feel like there's so many different students that have come in going, I can't do this. I don't believe I can do it. And then after a little while and getting the hang of it, suddenly they just step into this other place. So you get some people come in that are quite natural and they might still be nervous and anxious about reading in front of people or reading for people, but they're quite natural. Whereas some people will stand up and go, I can't do this. I have this one student at the moment. I won't share her name for psychic privacy.
No, we don't want any names. Yeah, privacy is important.
She's great. She came in and she was like, I don't think I can do this. And every time I'd be like, all right, your time to read. Come on, let's get up. She'd be like, I don't think I'm going to get anything. I don't think I can do this. And so I have little tips and tools that I work with my students to get them out of their head and just focusing on the information, because it's not about them. And we make it about us because, of course, it's so scary. It's something new. I was the exact same when I stepped into this type of development. So there's little tools we work with so that they're just focusing on the information and the clair that they're working with. So I said, just focus on that. And if you were to imagine what's happening now, and she'd do it, and then after she'd go, I just made the whole thing up. And I'm like, that's exactly how it's going to be for the first little while. That's how you feel. And then you start getting feedback. And so the other day in class, she's been there for a few months now, and I came into the breakout room. So when we're online, I put everyone into breakout rooms so they're just reading for each other, and I come in and out. And I came into the room and she was just talking and so in flow, and all of the information she was bringing through was so spot on. And so it was just such a proud moment of, I can see she's really broken through that I can't do this. Mm-hmm. She's still in that I'm making some of this up, but it's spot on. And so it's so beautiful to see her having broken through those limitations. And it's a very similar story to what I've seen for quite a few other people that have come into class going, what if I can't read? What if I can't do it? I'm really scared.
It's like when you break through the self-limiting beliefs that we impose on ourselves, when you throw them to the wayside, and allow, then it's sort of like, wow, this is so cool. I'm able to do this too.
Yeah.
It's not just for the select prized people who have the ability.
Yeah. And if anything, that's my passion with this work, is showing people that believe they need special gifts or abilities that they're already within them. They don't need a special gift. They already have that. It's just remembering it and reconnecting to it.
And remembering that they too, as an individual, are a special gift to this world.
100%. And their soul and their gifts, their soul decided to incarnate with, the list goes on. And so it's just a starting point for that remembering of who we are. And I do want to say, I see psychic development as a way back to the self and as a means to connect in with your purpose and your blueprint, whether it's reading, whether it's not.
I love that. We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Eloise Fielke. And remember, you can give Eloise a call at 888-346-9141. Let's talk to Eloise. Stay tuned.
All right, great job. We're all clear.
Thank you. I like that. It was good. A good segment. I like how you talk about your class and how it's broken down.
Yeah. I like compartmentalizing things. And so, and that's part of my tips that I've got written down as well to share with your audience, is compartmentalizing the clairs so you can get really clear at each level before putting them together, so you know what's coming in where.
I understand. What's your strongest clair?
It's actually a funny story. I'd love to talk about that on the show, on the live.
Okay, then we're going to hold that story.
Yeah, we'll hold it because it debunks some myths, which I love. I tell my students this all the time.
It's amazing. I mean, I started with one, and now I've got three really going, but they change. Like one day my knowing is just like right, it's so strong. And the next day I just keep hearing things. It's, like all this information coming in my ear. And then another day I might just have vision after vision after vision happening for me. Yeah.
Completely, because it just depends where your energy's at as well. But that's amazing that you're so multifaceted with it all. That's really awesome.
And it's growing. It's like you said earlier on the last break, that this is the journey, and you just have to continue to keep learning, because even when you die, as we were mentioning, you still keep learning. It doesn't stop.
Always learning, and it'll ebb and flow. Because I find for myself as well, some weeks my readings are very much focused on clairvoyance, some weeks not at all. It just ebbs and flows.
Yeah, I agree with you, and in what you end up working with, what
Yeah,
you receive.
completely.
When I
Yeah.
say working with, that's what I mean. What you receive. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. But yeah, I think I want to hear the story about your Claire. Is there
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
else I've missed asking about that you want
Um,
to promote or highlight?
not really. I'm pretty happy. I mentioned my teachers' names because I love honoring my teachers because I'm so grateful to them. So yeah, I'm pretty happy just wherever you want to take it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for the flexibility
Yeah, of
as we
course.
move into the charity shout out.
10 seconds.
Thank you.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you're invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, I'm back. I'm back with Eloise Fielke, psychic teacher, psychic development teacher, psychic medium, kinesiologist, and training to be a shamanic ceremonialist through the white dragon lineage. So welcome back, Eloise.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you're here. This is such a lovely conversation. But before we move forward, it's charity shout out time. So it's a time we honor a charity of my guests, who they're near and dear to your heart. And yours is Ingrid's Haven. So
Yes.
let's talk about Ingrid's Haven, please.
So, I am a cat lover. Everyone that knows me knows how much I love cats. I actually live with 4 cats as well.
I was going to ask
I
you how
have,
many you had.
yeah, so 2 of them are mine, 2 of them are my housemates. So there's 4 cats here, and I just couldn't love cats more if I tried. So I follow Ingrid's Cat Haven on Facebook and Instagram and just see their beautiful rescue stories all the time, and they warm my heart. And I know a couple of people that know Ingrid personally as well, and I've just heard such beautiful things. And the cats they rescue and the care that they have for their cats, it just melts my heart. So I'm so grateful for this opportunity for there to be some donations and support to Ingrid's Cat Haven for all the hard work that they do.
How lovely. And it's I'm going to assume it's a no-kill shelter.
Yeah, no kill shelter.
Those are so important to me.
So
And
important.
yeah, I honor any pet, a pet adoption, pet support place, because our animals are so intuitive. Our animals take care of us. They watch us. I mean, if you ever notice, when you're stressed, your animal's around trying to comfort you.
Completely. And taking it all on for you as well. They just want to help.
It's so true. And so whether it's a cat, a dog, a horse, a rabbit, a rooster, if they're a pet and you've connected, there you go.
Completely.
Thank you for sharing that with me and with the audience. I'm just sitting here in awe listening about, the cats, and cats I'm horribly allergic to cats, I have to admit, but I think they're so sweet, and they just, rub up against you and nudge you, and they're just big for cuddle balls, just love
Yeah.
bugs.
Oh, they are. And me and my partner always talk about how, because he wasn't a cat person before we got together, and now he is. But we always talk about how dogs are amazing, but you know what you're going to get. They're always excited, they love you, they want to be around. Whereas cats, you really have to work to get them to like you. And they've got their very quirky, weird personalities. So we just love that.
That they do. I mean, I've had 2 cats in my life, and so
Yeah.
I understand. And then as I got older, I became horribly allergic. So,
Yeah.
but check out Ingrid's Haven at www.ingridshaven.net.au/cats for adoption. Cats-for-adoption. Check them out. See how you can help. I'm sure they could use financial donations as well as adoptions. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. So when we were on break, I had asked you what your strongest clair is, and you said you had a story you wanted to share on here. So I'm going to
Yes.
open up the floor to talking about your strongest clair.
Thank you so much, Marla. So I love sharing this, and I share it with my students all the time because I feel like it really debunks myths about the clairs. So when I started, I was quite naturally clairvoyant. That was my strong suit, especially because I'd done a lot of meditation and kind of worked that muscle. The more you visualize, the more you're working on your clairvoyance because you're working your third eye in that muscle and getting used to working with it. But that started changing the more I started developing. And so with these classes, we focus on the different clairs. And that's how my teacher taught as well. And I really love that because you really get to hone in on them and get to learn how you receive information from them. And so for me, the more I worked on my clairs, at the start, I was not clairaudient at all. Could hardly hear anything, really struggled. It was a bit of a journey for me. And I was like, oh, I just can't do clairaudience properly. And that's okay. I'll focus on my strong suits because it was more the clairvoyance and clairsentience was coming in as well. And so the more I honed in on those levels, the more I practiced clairaudience because it wasn't my strong suit, the better I got. And now my readings are predominantly on a clairaudient level. And I love working on a clairaudient level. It means I don't have to work as hard. I don't have to interpret it all. I can just relay the information. And so it kind of just debunks myths that your strongest clair that you start with might not be your strongest later on. Not because it'll lessen, but because some that might feel disconnected, you can really work on and they might become your strong suit. So it's always growing and changing.
It's true. And I was telling the story how I started as I'm still very strongly clair-knowing. Then it was very clairaudient. And now the clairvoyance is getting stronger. And I just welcome it all because I also ask Spirit to give me messages, whether I see, hear, feel, or know, give them to me loud and clear so I'm able to use them to help others, help raise consciousness, family, friends. It's important.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd use asking as part of your curriculum, where you do a point where you teach how to ask Spirit for assistance, guidance, support.
Definitely. And I do find asking to be such an important part of the practice. The big one for me is just getting really clear about your spirit team and what spirits you're connecting with and asking, etc.
Yeah.
And so it's a journey to that, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense for me. We want it to make sense for the listeners. So, but I understand exactly what it is you're talking about. You had mentioned the blueprint, the purpose. Yeah. So can we talk about the importance of healing and how healing allows us to know our truth, live our truth, and connect to our purpose?
Yes, of course. So I believe personally that we all come here with a purpose our soul wants to share with the world. Our own medicine, our own energy, or our own gifts that we bring here. And I do believe that that is held within our blueprint. So our blueprint, which has options and different timelines for us that will essentially help us to achieve our soul's goals. I do believe that with our blueprint though, there's options. There's different paths we can take to get to those learnings and those gifts that we share. So with that, the more we strip away the false layers which is a big part of psychic development and working on your stuff and looking at your stuff, the more you strip away those false layers, the more you come back to your truth. And the more you're at your truth, the more you're going to be guided by your soul. The more you're going to really connect in with what lights you up, and the more connected to your blueprint you will be. And so I do find there to be such an importance with healing. And whatever works for you, whether it's a kinesiologist, whether it's a psychologist, whether it's a trauma therapist, talking therapy, it just depends what you need. I do find psychic development to be such a good supplementary therapy with that, but always finding what works for you for your own self-healing too.
I have to say I agree with your philosophy. I'm agreeing so much with what you're sharing about knowing that you do have a plan, and everything that goes on in your pre-birth plan you've agreed to. Now you have some free will just to tweak here and there, but there's a basic outline. That's why it's called a blueprint.
Yeah.
It's the outline.
Yeah.
Eloise, I can't believe the time is up. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show, for sharing your information, for talking about this amazing class that you have coming up. Does it come up at any specific time? I mean, when is the next class starting?
So the next one starts mid-September. So that'll be on Thursdays. So there's a few spots left for that one. And then I'll open up another one that will be at a different time slot for people internationally as well. So it just depends what time zone you're in.
So check out Eloise's website where you'll have all the information to sign up for the classes at www.eloisefieldkeintuitive.com. And Eloise's last name is spelled Fielke, intuitive.com, to find out information about Eloise, what she does, her classes, and how you can contact her directly. But I will share her email address, which is the same as her website, at gmail.com. So Eloise Fielke, intuitive.com, at gmail.com. Correct? Did I say that right? Okay, wonderful.
Yes, you did. Thank you, Marla.
My absolute pleasure. You're such a delight. And I'd love to have you on again down the road. I don't know, I keep hearing book. So I don't know if you're working on a book, but I keep hearing book.
One day, eventually. That will be down the track, but eventually.
That's what I'm hearing.
I'm not a big writer yet, but it's come up many times. So one day. But thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to connect. I'd love to come back and join you on this show. It's just been such a great chat. So thank you so much for having me here with you as well. And thank you to all the lovely listeners tonight.
Thank you. And I want to thank everyone at Voice America for all they do for getting the show up and running, and all the little nuances you helped me with, and I'm so grateful. Bridget, thank you. My assistant, my right hand, my left hand. Don't know what I'd do without you, and you, the listener. I'm going to leave you with a question before I say thank you. And the question of the day is love simply a physical desire or something more? What do you feel love is? If you want to share it with me, my email address is marla@mghealer.com. Would love to hear from you. You can write on Facebook, my Marla Goldberg with 2 R's page, those are the ways to get me. I'm sorry, I just went into a brain space. But I'd love to hear your answer. So thank you, listeners, for tuning in, for taking the time out of your day, out of your life to be a part of the show. You make this show happen. So thank you. And until next week, where our guest is going to be Marilyn Harper, I send you love, I send you blessings, and I send you gratitude. If you haven't heard these words today, I love you. And I am so grateful that you're in my life in whatever capacity you're in it, because you are so special and you just enhance everything that goes on for me. So until next week, stay well, stay grateful, and know you're loved. Bye for now.